Hey guys, Money of Yumi here, where I talk about anything and everything related to money and how to grow your wealth. If you plan on traveling to the US in 2023 and beyond, then this video is perfect for you. I'm going to share with you some do's and don'ts in the US so you don't get such a huge culture shock when you're traveling here. And hopefully some of these tips will help you save some money as well. After all, that's what my channel is about, right? And if you watched till the very end, there will be some bonus tips as well. Okay, so when you visit the US, you'll soon realize that every state is kind of like its own country, right? The way people behave, talk, and dress in, let's say, New York, for example, is very different from someone from California. Like New York is more fast-paced and California is more laid-back. So the first question that most of you will have is how many people should you travel with? And my answer is always, if you can, always travel in groups of 4. That way your costs will be reduced. Imagine taking the Uber for 1 or 2 people versus a group of 4 people. When you add the cost up, it can make a huge difference. And for hotel rooms, if you have 2 people, you can obviously have a hotel room together, but if you have 4 people, you can have 2 queen beds, 2 on each bed. You'll still get 1 hotel room, but that cost is then divided by 4 people. And you can travel in groups of 5, but that means that you would at least need 2 hotel rooms or a 2 or 3 bedroom Airbnb. And Airbnbs are great if you want to experience living in an American home. But if you're on a budget, you can take a look at motels, and they go about like $40 to $80 a night, which is more affordable than hotel rooms or Airbnbs. Second question is, should you take Uber or rent a car? I would say if you can, try to rent a car unless you plan on sticking to one area the entire day. For example, if you're going to Santa Monica Beach and you're staying in that area for the entire day before going back to your hotel, then Ubering will be cheaper. But in cities like Las Vegas, where it's super walkable and very convenient to go from one hotel to the other or just take the occasional Uber out of the strip, then I don't think you need to rent a car in Las Vegas unless you're driving to another city like Grand Canyon, for example, from Vegas. Then that's a 2.5-hour drive and you should rent a car or take the tour that would get you there if you're not renting a car. You can take Uber everywhere you go, but do keep in mind that they can add up to be very costly, especially if there's a surge pricing in your area at a given time. So for example, during non-peak hours, that ride costs $30, but because it's peak hour, there are not enough drivers and too many passenger requests, that ride is now $60. And since we're on the topic of peak hours, it is best to avoid rush hour traffic because traffic is terrible in big cities like New York City, Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, like basically anywhere in California. And the timings are around like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 4 to 7 p.m. So the bottom line to this question really depends on which city you're going, what you plan to do, and how many people you're traveling with. In New York, I wouldn't want to drive because parking is a bitch and expensive. But in California, I would because everything is too spread out. For example, if you're traveling from Universal Studios to Disneyland, that's like one county to the other. They're not even in the same city and not even in the same county. And don't forget, there are a lot of free parking in supermarkets in California. And one thing to know about driving in the US is you can turn right even if the light is red, but only if there's no incoming traffic from the left and there are no signs that say you can't turn right on red. If there's a sign that says you can turn right on red, don't do it. And when you see a stop sign, make sure you come to a complete stop. Not just a rolling stop, but a full, complete stop. Sometimes the cops like to hide in areas near the stop sign so they can give out tickets to people who don't come to a complete stop. Sneaky bastards, right? And the third tip is for those of you who choose to rent a car to drive in the US is to know about the gas stations. First, all gas stations have different pricing. It's not like in Singapore where everything's controlled and have the same price, and you would have to pump the gas on your own. No one's going to help you. If you're paying by cash, you would have to go to the cashier, and if you're paying by card, you can do it yourself at the pump. And if you're trying to save some money, you should always find the cheapest gas on your route with apps like Google Maps or Gas Buddy. And always get insurance. And the next question you might then be thinking is, should you then take the public transport? I wouldn't recommend it. You can choose to take the subway in Chicago or New York City, but oh my God, it is filthy. Kind of like Paris or Rome, it smells like pee. There are lots of homeless people. The rats are humongous and trains are not on time like ever. I've been to New York like maybe 5 times, and I've only taken the subway twice just because it's too dirty for my liking. LA's metro is a lot newer and cleaner, but most people in California drive just for convenience. I personally have never taken the public transport in California just because I've heard a lot of horror stories about it. The next tip on this list is probably the most important tip in the entire list, and that is the tipping. Because everywhere else in the world, we don't tip. So if you're traveling to the US, you will probably find the whole tipping culture really confusing and might come as a shock to you, but you should be tipping for your food and services. It's kind of like a mandatory 15 to 20% off your bill before the sales tax amount. Because in the US, it's your bill, the sales tax, the grand total, and then you tip after. So you don't tip on the grand total, but you tip on your bill. So that's gonna save you some money. So if your food costs like $20 before tax, you should be tipping at least $3. Now this 15% tip is only when your service is normal, like nothing stood out, but nothing was really bad. But if it's exceptional service, you may choose to tip 18%, 20%, or even 25 to 30%. But if you've got like bad service, obviously you don't have to tip that 15%. You can choose to tip something lower, like 10% or none at all. That's totally up to your discretion. And if you're ordering food at a fast food restaurant like McDonald's, you don't have to tip. There's no space for you to tip anyway. And if you're ordering takeout at a restaurant where you're going to pick up and not eating there, it is not mandatory to tip, but it'll be nice to tip if you can afford it, but only if you can afford it. Remember, not required. But if you're ordering food from delivery apps like Uber Eats or DoorDash, you should be tipping your delivery driver. Now, in the 10 plus years that I've been here, I've never actually experienced poor service from servers, because in some parts of the US, the servers depend heavily on tips as part of their wages. If they don't provide good service, customers won't tip, so that means that they're going to be making less money. On a side note, I was thinking if we change that 10% service charge in Singapore to where the restaurants have to give this 10% service charge to only the servers who serve that customer, will we get better service in Singapore? Right? Because I've had bad service in Singapore, but that's something to think about. And if you're traveling in large groups of more than 6 people, you should be tipping at least 18 to 20%. And usually restaurants will already automatically charge 18% for a large group, sometimes 20%. So that's something to know if you're traveling in a large group. And there's also tipping for valet parking at the hotel when a bellboy helps you with your bags, if you get your room cleaned, and when you're getting your hair and nails done. For Uber and Lyft, it is not mandatory for you to tip your drivers, but you should always tip them because they are not paid per hour, they are paid per ride. So let's say you're stuck in rush hour traffic, they don't get more money from you. But obviously if your driver has a poor attitude, his car stink, his car is old, and he has poor driving skills, then yeah, don't tip. And you should be careful about the automated tipping machines. They usually start with a higher tip amount, like an 18% option. So if you see that, just click custom and then calculate 15% on your own and tip them 15%. Every cent counts. And don't be afraid to hit that no tip button, especially if you're just getting coffee at a store and you have no intentions of staying and you're just gonna leave right after, then there's no point in tipping. That's gonna save you some money. And the 6th on this list is safety. Most places in the US are not that safe, especially when you compare them to Singapore. I'm sure you guys have seen articles and videos about robberies happening across the US. So guys, please do not leave your shit unattended. I've seen Singaporeans leaving their phones on their table to reserve the table and then leaving their bags and laptops on the table to go get food. Like, oh my gosh, don't do that here, right? Always be alert at all times, and please do not walk alone at night unless it's crowded and there are people walking with you. The next on this list is alcohol. If you plan on drinking at a restaurant or a bar, make sure you bring either your passport or driver license with you, even if you look like you're of age, even if you look like you're 50, for example. You might still get checked by the service because it might be required by the law. And speaking about the law, different states have different alcohol laws. Like in California, bars are closed at 2 a.m. and the last call for drinks is usually around like 1 to 1:30 a.m. and you can't buy alcohol between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. I know, weird, right? Because in Singapore, the party only starts between 12 to 2 a.m. It's too early to end the night. And other states like in North Carolina, for example, you can't buy alcohol before 12 p.m. on a Sunday. And in Indiana, you can only buy alcohol between 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. It's odd, but I guess they want you to go to church on a Sunday instead of getting drunk. I don't know. Next on this list is food. Food is going to be your largest expense because a regular meal costs like 15 to 30 US dollars, while hawker centers in Singapore cost like $2 to $3 per meal. Expect to pay about $10 to $20 for fast food, and if you're looking for something fancier, you'll probably be looking at like 60 to 100 US dollar per person. And obviously, if you're looking at fine dining, like Michelin rated restaurants, be prepared to spend like at least 300 to 700 US dollars after sales tax and tips. And these are not including alcohol, right? That's another level. And remember, you're in the US where portion sizes are huge. Think like supersize me. So if you're traveling to the US as a tourist, do not overorder your food and share your food with your friends. And sometimes in restaurants, you can get free refills for soda, tea, and coffee. And if you're unsure, like if the restaurant provides free refills, just simply ask them. And sometimes they also give you like plastic to-go cups, so you can bring your drink with you while you go sightseeing instead of buying another drink. Money saved. And if you're trying to find good food, like restaurants, bars, and services, use Yelp.com to find them and sort by either highest rated or recommended. There are also several websites that are useful to find good restaurants, bars, services, things to do, attractions, and they are Trillis.com, Eater.com, TripAdvisor.com, and Timeout.com. Yelp, Trillis, and Eater are the only sites you need for food, while the rest are for things to do and attractions. And if you really want to experience the true American culture, I would suggest you to either try a food truck or a street pop-up at least once. Next on this list, which a lot of you would like, is shopping. Outlets are your best friend, literally. It's cheaper than in Singapore. But if you're talking about full price items for luxury goods, then Singapore is generally cheaper than in the US. And don't forget to add the sales tax amount to the price tag that you're seeing to get the final amount when you're comparing prices, right? Sales tax rates varies for different cities, so be sure to check and calculate if you're on a budget. 10th on this list, which is not commonly talked about, is the people and the American culture. America is a very diverse country. It's kind of like a melting pot, but it is also very segregated as well. And what's funny is I find Americans more kiasu than Singaporeans. Like, if you think that only Singaporeans are kiasu, you're wrong. There are so many times I went early to line up thinking I was going to be like the first 10 or something, and I went there and there was already 20 people in front of me, that sort of thing, and I'm like thinking, I guess I'm not kiasu enough, you know? Yeah, so try to plan ahead of what you want to do and where you want to be so you avoid disappointment. Americans are also one of the friendliest people I've ever met. Like I've said before, I've never actually experienced racism personally since I've been here 10 plus years. So don't be afraid to have a conversation with them if they talk to you, which high chance they will. Or even better, talk to them and immerse yourself in the American culture. Next on this list is healthcare. Healthcare is one of the most common things that travelers forget. Always bring a bag of important medications with you because if you fall sick during your trip and you don't have international healthcare coverage, your medical bill is going to be very costly. If you need an ambulance, it will be about $1,000 per mile of traveling. That's insane. So what I always bring with me when I go on vacation are cough, flu, fever, diarrhea, stomachache medication, and painkillers, like all the common ones, just in case. I think it's better to be kiasu, like better be safe than sorry in this situation. 12 on this list is should you bring cash? And the answer is absolutely yes. You'll need some cash when you're tipping people like the valet or the bellboy. They're not living in the future, you know, they can accept your credit card, right? So it's always good to bring some cash with you, especially when some food places only accept cash. But everywhere else, use your card, especially if you can get a 1 to 3 point ratio, then that will make up for the difference in foreign exchange rates. But if you're not gaining any points with your credit card, you can choose to get a prepaid travel card or bring cash. And don't forget to activate your credit card for travel. And last but not least, how much should you budget for a US trip? As I mentioned earlier, food is going to be your largest expense, but if you're going to go to a theme park like Universal Studios, Disneyland, or Six Flags, expect to break your wallet. Look at the prices here. But guys, since you're already flying to the US, which is on the other side of the earth, you shouldn't force yourself to be on a strict budget. It's not like you're flying to the US every year or every other year. Set aside more money for yourself to have some fun, right? I would suggest a budget of at least like $100 to $200 a day. So if you're here for 10 days, you should have a budget of about $1,000 to $2,000 US dollars. And as promised, I'm going to share with you some bonus tips, and they are: first, bring your own toothbrush and toothpaste because the hotels don't provide them. Second, Pack your own water bottles in your luggage before coming here, because you'll have to go out to the supermarket to buy water. They don't provide them in most of the hotels and Airbnbs. You have to get it on your own. And there are no water kettles in the hotels. It's only like some Mr. Coffee machine or a Keurig machine, which really can't make you clean water. And third, plan where you're going for the day so you can plan out your routes. The US is huge, so you don't want to go east and then west and then east again. That's going to be a complete waste of time. And the last one is, don't forget to pack your power bank and travel adapters. And if you're thinking of buying souvenirs for your friends and relatives like t-shirts or magnets, go to Chinatown. Don't buy them at tourist spots because they're gonna be more expensive. For example, if you come to LA, Hollywood has a ton of gift stores around this road here, but they are twice the price of the stores just 2 blocks away right here. If you're looking for food gifts to buy, go to your local grocery store like a Walmart, Target, or Ralph's, or where I like to go is Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. They have some unique items like the Italian soda from Whole Foods and the sesame honey cashew nuts from Trader Joe's. See's Candies is another great place to go because it's half the price of the See's Candies in Singapore, and it is owned by Mr. Warren Buffett. I think that's all of the tips I have for today. If you found this video insightful and valuable, please do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell icon so you get notified whenever I post a new video. And feel free to follow me on my Instagram. And I want to wish all of you a happy new year. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave me a comment down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. Have a good day.